Hello everyone. Not sure if I was going for the crow as far as my makeup is concerned. That's what happens when you don't have very good eyesight and you can't really put on your eyeshadow all that well. Doesn't even look even because I couldn't see what I was doing. That's okay. I do like lipstick color. I do like dark eyeshadow. I just need someone else to put it on for me, apparently. So I'm going to attempt today to do some editing to The King of Norway. I finished editing the conscripts yesterday through Grammarly. And the child of the lasher, not the son or daughter, because I haven't determined what gender the child is, but the child of the lasher doesn't need editing because it's supposed to be written in their perspective of writing, and the fact that they're not great at writing is irrelevant because they're just writing a letter to put in a jar to leave behind a tree or leaving a time capsule or something for when the grid goes down, which this person knows is going to happen like in 2 days from the time they start writing the letter. So I don't really need to edit that one because it's from a first-person perspective as any layperson would write a letter at the end of the world. But I ordered two books to tell you what to do with your spare Lego, and I've gotten a lot of good ideas. And some of them involved having to have specialty pieces, and some of them involve having to have like some tiles, and tiles are like flat Lego. They've got the little underside that you stick them to something, but the top is flat. So you can make like something smooth, like the outside of a tank or something. You won't see all the little Lego studs. It covers them up. Or, make a house or something. Anyway, I've got to sort a bunch of Lego. I have tons of spare Lego I've got to sort. The book gave me advice on how to sort it, and I was sorting it by color, and apparently that's the worst way because you're going to dig through a whole pile of yellow to find a angle brick or something. You're going to be digging for a long time. So instead of put all the angle bricks together and all the connector pieces together and all the, 2x2 together or so on and so forth. So this Lego I built sometime back, it's actually from Super Mario Brothers, the video game, or maybe part 2 of the game, but I'm just calling it Chompy, and if anyone doesn't know who Chompy is, in my first book they called her Morlock. Serena, the story starts off with her just kind of getting ready to go to some surprise announcement that her boss slash friend slash manager slash brew pub owner is going to give her good news. So she's getting ready like super early in the morning to get to go down to the brew pub, even though it's not open, to get the news from him. And in the meantime, she's looking around where she lives in this tiny little apartment, not even much bigger than this room, that she chose to have that small of an apartment, even though she could afford anything at that point. Because David, her deceased husband, had been like fairly wealthy, not like Elon Musk wealthy or even Bill Gates wealthy, but he had a pretty penny. So she could have gotten a house on the waterfront, and she chose not to because she didn't want to live in a giant house all by herself. And she's a very lonely human being, and all she has as far as companions, and not even a pet, but she has a Venus flytrap that when she disappears into time, and then the manager, whose name is Seth, has to come and close out her apartment, finds it deceased, because apparently the Venus flytrap plant requires a lot of maintenance. I wouldn't have thought that, but it does. Anyway, Serena names this Venus flytrap Chompy. It's kind of like her only friend in her house. And her only other friends are Seth, the bar manager, and the business manager, like, sub-employee, Darlene. Serena works with them both. And that's her only 2 friends until she goes into the future. So, now I'm going to move on to what I just made this afternoon. The little guy is a little minifigure, and they call it a sprite, a mushroom sprite, I think, out of like a little fantasy pack. But I thought when I saw this little minifig that it kind of looked like the original version of Sebastian when Sebastian was a little child. So let me give you the differences between the two Sebastians as far as Thrice that I published and Thrice that I scrapped. So in Thrice that I published, at the beginning of the story, Sebastian is 68 years old. And he's 5'7". He's very slight. He's like 135 pounds. He's very slight. He's not a big guy. He's also not ever a guy that's ever going to be able to hold his own at any kind of bar fight, any kind of physical altercation. He just can't do it. In fact, he's had women protecting him all his life. Mostly Gemma, but other women have protected him against being harmed because he just can't. He cowers at violence, and the reason is that his father had been so violent that he just never. Well, he didn't really have any reason to like be in the physical altercation, but if he had been in a physical altercation, which he learned when he gets attacked, he doesn't have a chance. Can't stand up for himself. Not a bit. And as far as Sebastian in the story I published, I originally wanted to change his personality from what Sebastian was in the original book, which I'll get to next. And at first, I went on Facebook and asked, because I was just thinking, what if I make the Sebastian in the Thrice that I published kind of this guy that'll sit in his rose garden in his little silk tunic and like cry? And which Sebastian Murphy in the published version does cry, but not just for the sake of being a weeby person. That's not what he is. That's originally what I wanted to make him. And I went on and I said, can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of some weepy musician that sits in silk tunic and cries to his rose garden and his green tea? And somebody said Morrissey because he's a whiny little bitch. Now, I don't know anything about Morrissey, so no Morrissey fans jump on my ass. I don't know him from the Man in the Moon, whether he's a dick or not, even though I hear rumors. He's a crybaby vegan dick. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he is vegan, but the rest of it, I don't know. I never met the man, but I just thought that was funny. Again, I don't know Morrissey, so no shade on him. But I decided, for the published version of Thrice, I wasn't going to make him like that. So I make him kind of like having a sense of humor and kind of having a lighthearted sort of personality. And he really, really loves people in a specific kind of bubble he's put around himself. He likes up-and-coming artists. He had been abused by his father. In the published version of Thrice, he's got 3 sisters, I believe. And one of them is named Sarah. And Sebastian runs away from home when he's 16 to get away from the abuse. Gets with this like nomadic group in Sydney, Australia, and he's with them for years. Gemma comes to meet him when she turns 18. They kind of struggle hand to mouth as a couple, doing day labor and that sort of thing. And in the meantime, Sebastian's learned how to play guitar, and he's in a punk band in, it's called Wombats, and they're really good. They only get like local attention, and then one day this talent scout comes into one of their shows on Christmas and tells this band, hey, if you change everything about yourselves, including your name, to call yourselves Thrice, then we can get you on MTV and get you on tours and all of that, which it ends up coming true. So Sebastian, in this book that I published, starts off as a musician that he came into like a little bit later in his life, as far as when I mean later, into his 20s. And then he transitions to be an actor, then he transitions to do like acting coaching and doing commercials, not like movie acting, and then he transitions into podcasts and keeping up a blog and all this sort of thing. And that's where he gets the majority of his attention, other than the fringe following. What? My CD just talked to me. Not sure if I was supposed to do that. I'm sorry, I've gotten totally sidetracked. So anyway, the Sebastian in the original version of Thrice that I didn't publish looked physically the same as far as face, height. It's telling me to recharge it. Okay, I will recharge it. Anyway, thank you for throwing me off. In the original version of Thrice, Sebastian was about 10 years younger, around 57, 58. And even though, goodbye, it's dead. Even though he was the same height and he looked the same, he was a little more like substantial in his body mass. And he's more like of a physical person. So he probably could hold his own in a bar fight, even though he never would have picked a fight. Neither Sebastian would ever pick a fight. Whereas Sebastian in the published version is so concerned about his weight constantly because his father abused him because he was a chubby kid, Sebastian in the non-published version is concerned about his height being only 5'7", and that's only because of the toxic masculinity thing that's deeply embedded in him. But otherwise, he's a very, very like magnetic kind of person, charismatic, I guess I'm looking for, and very like a very sexual person. He really, really loves to like dress to the nines, whereas Sebastian in the published version just likes to look nice, and he likes for his clothes to fit him well, but it's more like down to earth sort of clothes. Whereas Sebastian in their non-published version would either wear something ostentatious or something like expensive. Like he would go to a dinner party in a suit that looked like some kind of silk embedded with micro glitter, like because it's such fine of thread, metallic thread, that it kind of looks like a galaxy that's far, far away embedded in his dark suit that also fits into the nines. Both Sebastians are very, very hyper vigilant about their hygiene, and don't want hair out of place, or they don't want facial hair. They're both really conscious about the way they look. But the Sebastian in the original version that I didn't publish started off as an actor as a child, and he actually had only one sister, Sarah, who was just this tiny, tiny little sprite of a little bitty pale, white-haired, like little pale, little tiny, little polka dot, little tiny postage stamp woman. Actually, her personality was humongous, but her body was very tiny. I kind of fashioned Harlow in the published version after her, only I made her a little bit bigger, like more my size, or maybe even a little bit bigger than me, just so she could look like statuesque and she would look dynamic and not like this tiny little fluff. You know the little marshmallow cat, the little marshmallow cat meme, little fluff. That's kind of what she looks like, the little fluff in the original version, but she's really, her personality is way out there. She believes in all sorts of things, including fate, and she's just got this strong personality, and she's got this multi-million-dollar fashion business. Anyway, Sebastian and Sarah's original parents in the original version were very supportive of their talents. They were very supportive parents. They weren't abusive at all. And including that Sarah, when she's talking about the first time Sebastian dies in the original version, which I won't get into that whole plot, that she remembered from when he was little playing. He loved to play. He loved to play pretend. And he would like set up little scenes and he'd dress up like birds or he'd dress up like fairies and he'd pretend to be these things. And this is when his parents realized he had acting talent. So he starts off as a child actor, moves briefly into the band Thrice, goes back to acting. After Thrice demolishes. And both times, Thrice, Sebastian walks away from Thrice in both versions of the story, but in this published version of the story, he goes back to Thrice under his name of Sebastian Murphy instead of going by Finnick, which is what he went by when he was in Thrice in the 80s. He didn't go by Finnick when he came back to that, but he went under his name Sebastian Murphy, and he was in Thrice 2.0, I guess, in the published version for a few years before he once again retired from it. But he retired from it the second time around with a much better attitude about it and not feeling so arrogant. And it wasn't even that he felt arrogant in being in Thrice. He just felt like he couldn't be his own person because he had these stage managers and image managers telling him how to look and what to do, contrary to what he really wanted to be. Even though he always loved music and he always loved to perform it. So I'm glad he got to go back to it. Whereas also Harlow in the published version gets to go be a concert pianist, was something she had always wanted to do. Anyway, I might try to make a mini figure Harlow if I can get the pieces. And in the meantime, I need to kind of go through my writing a little bit before I move back down to sorting Legos. I mean, I'm not in a hurry to publish Collateral Damage, but the sooner I get it done, the more likely it's going to be published, because the longer I wait, the longer I'm probably going to put it in the back burner. Because one of the things being sober has challenged me with is not so much that I want to go get a drink. I mean, I kind of do, but I've sat in bars 4 and 5 times since I got out of rehab and haven't been tempted to run up there and get an alcoholic beverage. It's just that alcohol was kind of like something that helped me with my creative process. Too much of it, hindrance. A little bit of it helped me out. Motivation. Non-alcoholic. Tastes good. Not so much of a motivator. So the sooner I just get myself to at least edit Collateral Damage as something to publish. And anything else I write, I might not publish. I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But in the meantime, I've got to start getting on it and get the cover art done so it can come out hopefully by the end of August. Maybe to correspond with they called her Morlock, which I published in August 2021. Maybe I can publish Collateral Damage in August of 2025. And then I can move on to the story about the rehab. And then I can move on to The Boy with the Notebooks. Then anything else that just comes after that's going to be gravy. Unless we hit the lottery and I can full-time write, which you never know. Everyone have a good day.